this video, we're going to be looking at tabs. I consider tabs to be almost like a sideways accordion in a way. And I guess it's interesting they put tabs next to the actual accordion. I do believe in the documentation here. So we're going to be looking at the documentation, and then we're going to look at some fun coding stuff at the back end of it. So let's get to looking at the documentation and see what tabs are all about. All right, it says tabs is an accessible tabs component that provides keyboard interactions and ARIA attributes described in the WAI ARIA tab design pattern. I'm not going to click it, but feel free to search around and, well, tell me what you find in there. If we want to import it, we could see we have tabs, tab list, tab panels, tab panel. And so it's kind of hot. It's kind of hard to say the tab thing repeatedly. It's like one of those words when you say it enough times in a row, it just sounds or feels weird to say. But likewise with, the table and some other things that we've built so far, you'll see that, yeah, there may be a lot of these imports, but they stack up nicely and they're very easy to assemble together. So we have descriptions here describing what each of these things are. But if you're like me, you're a bit more visual. So rather than me read these to you, let's get down here and see how they're assembled. And so we see tabs as the most parent component here, tabs on the top and bottom. And then we have the tab list itself right here, which I think is a bit of a misnomer here. Tab list is more of like your tab header, where you kind of have like your, table header and you have your table body. It's a very similar split between these two. So your tab list is always going to be your header. So 1, 2, 3. We see this corresponds with 1, 2, and 3 up here. And then we have the tab panels, which is true. There's multiple panels in here, even though this is the most parent panel here. And we could come in to each panel, which corresponds, there's 1 matches to 1, 2 matches to 2, and 3 matches to 3 right here. And as we click, it'll display the corresponding contents in the tab panel that corresponds to the tab in the tab list. So 3 is going to correspond to 3 down here, 2 to 2. I've already said that. It doesn't always have to be 1, 2, and 3. You could have, pictures of your grandma in here, I guess, or, pictures of you like shotgunning a beer or something along those lines. So this is just a simple one-to-one mapping to kind of show you how this logically lines up. And so we could do other things too, like we could have tab variants in color. And it says right here that tabs come in 6 different variant styles. And so we have the line, enclosed colored, soft rounded, and solid rounded. Now we get into these in the actual coding part of this afterward, but let's just click on one here. Or should I say type, right? And so we have soft rounded, we have blue right here. It still works the same, but it's as easy as just changing the variant prop string argument that it's getting right here, which is super cool. I wouldn't recommend this soft rounded for everything. This looks cool because it's each one of these is like 3 characters, but if you have one that's 3 characters, then you have like maybe you have the word, I don't know, automatopoeia or something. It may look a little strange to have like a really long cylindrical like soft rounded background. So just consult your graphic designer, or if you are, you probably know better than to do that, but feel free to play around with these. And so it says right here that you could also change the color scheme by passing color scheme in. And so previously we have this as blue with that little bit thicker blue border out here. But down below, we have it being green. This is just being green passed in through the color scheme. We've seen this in, I think, every single example and every single component there is for Chakra. So there's no surprise there. So you could do that as well, which is super cool. And most of all, super easy. And then we have the tab sizes. We have small, medium, and large. So let's go to small. It's quite small, but not the smallest it could be, I guess. It's not microscopic. And then we have large right here. And so you could use your state, something that, sees how big is the screen size. And you could, if you need to, go between size, medium, and large, depending upon the screen size being displayed here. You can also change the alignment. So before we had everything on this end right here. Now we have it on the end. And if I wanted to put it in the center, I could go ahead and do that too. As you notice, I was typing, as it's getting just gibberish bad arguments in here, it's defaulting to aligning it to the start. So always know that. If you want to send it to the end or the start, and you notice it's not doing that, it might be because there's a typo. And so if you add, other tabs in here inside of a tab list, it will continue to center all the contents on the inside. Personally, I think the center is my favorite, and then the start. I don't know much about the end, but I guess if there's a use case for that, then go for it. It's cool. They give you the flexibility. Then we have fitted tabs. We have this isFitted argument, which is the default of being true. And you notice that this tab takes up 50%, and this tab takes up 50% as well. If you were to have another one in here, it'd be like 33, 33, 33%, shared between them all right here. But this is a way where here you have all this, I don't want to call it dead space because it's not like it's bad or anything. But here you could have more of like the file drawer cabinet kind of look, even though it's not stacked up. But you could do that if it, fits your fancy. And so we also have this down here, and it says styling the tab via props, or the tab states, I should say. And so in the event you need to create custom styles for the tabs, simply set the variant to unstyled, and we could use _selected, _hover, and _active. So we're doing this right here. Scroll a little bit. We have this variant unstyled, so it's saying, hey, don't apply anything. But then we come in and we have when it's selected for the tab in the tab list here, we want the background to be, the color is going to be white, so that's the font. And then we want a blue background. So this is 500 right here, and this is going to be green 400. We come back. Both the color fonts are both white, but now we have a bit more control over that. That's, very, very easy to do inline right here. And so this is a little bit more complicated example, not a super amount, but we can see that we could on change the colors here. And all they're doing is they have the colors, they have use color mode value right here. And this is just, all the, I guess you would say, colors that they're using. And then we're basically using state. And as we're clicking on each of these, all we're doing is updating the state to change the colors that we're using to, fill in for the, the backgrounds of both of these components here. So this is, I don't know, I would say like a little bit out of scope. I don't know, if you out of the gate would need something like this, because it's kind of weird for your users to, go through here and have things change colors. That's not really consistent across the board, but it shows right here, you could do that, if you so wanted to. And then we can make a tab initially active right here. So if you want a tab to be initially active, simply pass the default index prop and set it to the index of the tab. So this one is selected first. And so this is default index 0. What if we did, or 1, if we want to do 0, it would be Naruto. If we wanted to go to 1 again, it's this character right here. And all you have to do is just slap the default index in here. And remember, it starts at 0. And that'll start it for you. And a use for this could be maybe you set it and have some kind of ref or some kind of stateful information where it may be somewhere they've been recently, or they've chosen a series of actions previously in their decision making, and you're anticipating that they're going to want to look at this tab over this tab, or maybe it's not that complicated. Maybe you want to set it to newest employee on the team, and so you set the default index to that. Those are some basic ideas out there, but yeah, you could just change the default index if you want to. You could also mark the tab disabled here. All you do is come specifically into that tab and say is disabled. And as we see that's happening on this line right here, 1 and 3 are active right here, and you cannot click 2, and you actually see that, do not click inactive symbol that my cursor is taken over. And so we have tabs with manual activation. And so it says by default, tabs are activated automatically. This means when you use the arrow keys to change tabs, the tab is activated and focused. So it says in this scenario, you should use a manually activated tab. And so it says it moves, let's say it moves focus without activating the tabs. With focus on a specific tab, users can activate it by pressing space or entered. So if we come over here, so I'm using my arrows on my keyboard right now. I clicked the original 1 tab and I'm moving left and right. Let me go back to 1 and then I hit enter. But if I was to come up to here and I was to go left, I'm not hitting enter. I'm just going left and then right on my arrow keys, and it's automatically showing me what the contents are. And so this may be really good for users depending upon if you're considering maybe they're in areas where, you know, there's a lot of information, or I don't even want to say sensitive information, but you want them to maybe be able to shuffle between these in such a way that it's not constantly reloading the component in there, because that may get annoying. You may want, out of, a few tabs in this area, you may want to shuffle over a few and be like, I think I want to use this one and hit enter. Another one too is maybe you're doing something with flashcards or something else out there where you may want to, go and do something and you don't want to show the contents right away. We could also lazily mount the tabs. So it says by default, the tab component renders all tabs to the DOM, meaning that invisible tabs are still rendered but are hidden by styles. If you want to defer the rendering of each tab until it is selected, you could use the isLazy prop. This is useful if your tabs require heavy performance or make network calls on mount. That should only happen when the component is displayed. I think most of the time, maybe this shouldn't be as much of an issue loading the content. But yeah, if you're going to make any heavy network calls, and even then, if you have to make a network call, it may not be that bad. There may be things like if you were to use, there's certain state, management libraries out there that checks to see, and you could set it to see if the information on the page is stale. So there's ways to definitely offset that, but I feel that, if you're doing really, really, really heavy work inside of a tab, you might, by that point consider, structuring your app in such a way that you could still load the content, but maybe have some other way of getting around the constant calls when you switch a tab. And here we have controlled tabs. This isn't something I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, because this is kind of getting to the customized fun out there example. All we're doing is we have a box kind of surrounding all this stuff and an input, which is really acting as a slider. And it's one of those things where it updates the state, and then that state informs which tab is open. So they all update each other. It's not really worth going over because I've never seen this style out in the wild. But I guess if you wanted to do something like this, you can. But most of the time, you would just use a basic, tab, or maybe just a slider. And so we have creating custom tabs. I'm not going to get too much into this because I'm not going to be focusing specifically on your customized tabs or really customized components. You could for sure make them, but odds are, I imagine 99.9999% of you are going to use what's out of the box. And here's more of the same as well, more customized stuff. We have the accessibility on here. Don't forget to go over this because odds are at least some percentage of users are going to be using some kind of a assisted device. Here's the ARIA roles, the props, and you know what? I feel like let's just do the coding and then see what this is like as we type it out. See you in just a moment. All right. So in our first of 2 examples, what I'm going to do is just have a basic tabs example. And then in the second one, we're going to add some things like styling the tabs and add in some other, features as well. But let's get to coding. So as you can see, I have all my imports scheduled, or importing up here. I don't know if I'd say scheduled. You'll got to realize that 8 o'clock is very late for me, or starting to get late, because I get up at like 6 a.m. So yeah, you just have to just realize that sometimes. So anyways, we got tabs here. Let me space this out because I got room now. We have tabs surrounding everything. That's to be expected here. And then we have two kind of centerpieces. We have the tab list, and then we have the tab panel. And so we have these right here, and we're clicking on them, and we're not getting anything. And that's because there's an actual typo I have. You see we have tab panel with tab panels in here. So what's the issue? The issue is that I make mistakes too. And plus, when you have things that are similarly named, sometimes stuff like this happens. But what we have is the home profile and then Bernie the dog. So we have home. We could click on profiles, select a woofer. That's, I guess, code speak for dog. I don't know. And then we have Bernie the dog, and we have Bernie's profile. Now, I just have the heading as H2 in here, just this text. I could have built out an entire profile or had some system where you actually select, and there's a bunch of stuff going on behind the scenes. But I want to keep these tutorials as succinct as possible and show you what you could do and kind of inspire you to take that next step. Because if I just start building out a large project here, kind of missing the point of tabs. And so you could have these, wherever on your website, maybe as you log in, or is it you want to curate someone through a process, right? But we could do more than just have, this plain old stuff right here. We could come up to the top, and like most things, there are variants. And we have these different ones here. So we have enclosed. Let's click this and see what it does. And this is cool. So we click off here. We can see that it forms a line and comes around. So it feels more of like I guess you'd say like a manila folder filing cabinet kind of feel there. Enclosed colored. Oh, this is pretty cool. I like this one. So still very similar to enclosed, but you kind of have that light blue back here. I'm sure you can style this however you want to, but that's what comes out of the box. Line, where it's just a straight line. And obviously, you can see here is making it thicker underneath where the textual content is. Soft round. Ooh, this one's really nice too. Actually, I like this one kind of a lot. What else do we have here? Solid rounded. Oh, so it's just more definite looking. So these kind of look more like traditional buttons, which I guess is fine, but just be careful. These are kind of acting like buttons here, but just be careful that if you have other buttons around here, it just may look really, really strange. So once again, just because you can doesn't mean you always should. And then lastly is unstyled, and this is pretty dirt boring. This is something you'd experience in like the late 90s, where they're like, they'll figure it out. So there's a couple other things we could do as well. We could size these up, make these small, really tiny. I imagine medium is going to be the default because typically it is. Looks to be the case. And then large. Voila. This is not, between medium and large or medium and small, not a gigantic difference, but, you know, whatever you think best fits your content. And then we could do stuff like, you know, align center. And we could, you know, add whatever styles we want to in here to, you know, make this look a little bit more professional. But you can imagine if you had some kind of, you know, blog thing or whatever it is your heart's desire, a tab list may be, you know, part of the solution for you. So in the next example, what we're going to do is we're going to do things like disable some tabs, going to show you how to style some things when you select them, and yeah, use the attribute is fitted. So see y'all in a couple seconds. Alrighty, welcome back. Let's go ahead and take this stuff off right here. Make it, you know, as basic as possible. And so the first thing we're going to do is come in here and we're actually going to style the tabs themselves. So, and this is when they're selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste over something from the side just to speed this up a little bit. So as we see here, there we have these, you know, blue rectangular, you know, it's filled in with the light, you know, blue on the outside here. You know, this isn't like the most sexy thing ever in the world, and this intention for an example is not to be. But you could see that very, very easily if we want to, you know, kind of override the styles there and just kind of make them, you know, whatever we want rather than go with a particular variant, we could do that as well. And I think that's just pretty cool there that you just inject it straight into there. So the next thing I want to show you too is what if we don't want to use a tab? What if there is a particular business flow where a user just shouldn't be able to access a tab? All we have to do is do this. Is disabled. And you see it's grayed out now. Now it says Bernie's profile. Obviously we're inside of Bernie's profile, but if we click out, we can't click back in. We can only go so far to select a woofer. And maybe there's a list of them down here. And then in theory, we click one, we update our state. And rather than Bernie the dog, it's like Ralph the corgi or something. I don't know, whatever your heart desires. And the last thing I wanted to show you all in this video is this, is fitted. Actually, I'm just go ahead and type it out. Oh, it's in tab list. My bad. Wrong area. And what does this do? If true, the tabs will stretch to the width of the tab list. And so we see that they're, you know, they stretch pretty far. So if we also wanted to come back in, add a variant, you know, the size, all that other stuff, or if we wanted us to change our styles based upon this fitted look, it'll all flow together and it'll all look great. Well, hopefully it'll look great, unless I'm doing it because I'm a pretty crappy designer. But I think I make pretty okay tutorials. So if you like what you've seen and like to see more, like, share, subscribe, leave all the positive, uplifting comments below, and I'll see y'all in the next video.